Hello everyone, BXD come back to you with another Ethyrial video. Today we're going to talk about the late game enchanting system and all of the unique enchants that are available at this moment. I will also tell you how I rate them and how I recommend to use them. Enchanting is an expensive crafting system you have to level up by gathering essences around the world of Viramisa. Then you will need to buy the corresponding dust and apply these enchants to any of your gear. The enchants from T8 to T1 are mostly minor stat increments, but these are mainly used to level your enchanting. At T5 you get your first unique enchant, which is Vampirism. This will heal you for a short amount on an unhit proc every 8 seconds. This is very good for sustain in your leveling experience, and I really recommend you go out and get one from the imps and the imp cave. At T6 you will get the resistance enchants. I believe these are very underrated at this moment. For example, I use demonism resistance as a tank for the last dungeon, BOC. I do this because 90% of all the mechanics in BOC does demonic damage, except one of the bosses, which does shadow. So 18% decrease in damage really changes how much damage you are receiving. At T7 you will have the biggest stat boost you can have for your armor. You can get 12 plus of any stat on all of your armor pieces, giving you an extra 60 stats just from T7 enchants. But at T8 we start to find the more unique enchants. You have the extra damage and extra healing, which is the basic ones, but then you also get all the unique enchants. First off, you get a Bloodthirst. Bloodthirst is just an upgraded version of Vampirism. Very solid, very good healing. You can use it for most of the game. You get it from either the Demon Tyrants, or you can go down underground to the Doombringers. They also have a high chance of giving the Bloodthirst. You have some other enchants which were recently added to the game. We have Miasma, Rend, you have Ignite, and you have Epoch. All of these rare enchants come from their own specific mob, and supposedly they drop around 1 out of 250. The first one, Miasma, is a dot which is applied to a target. The dot will deal nature damage to the target twice per second and spread to nearby targets. In my opinion, it's the best dot enchant you can get at this moment. And it can be used by most classes in most instances, and the damage is very solid. You can get one from farming Nagas on Jade Island. The next one is Epoch. Epoch is the first buff enchant you will encounter. It will provide you 40 of each stat for 10 seconds with a 20-second cooldown. So this is comparable to having 20 of each stat permanently, which is almost as good as the best in slot ring. I really like Epoch. I think most classes can use Epoch. It's one of the better T8 enchants. So if you have the option to go with this one, I would probably go with alongside either Miasma or Bloodthirst. Then we have some of the worst ones, in my opinion. The first one is Rend. Rend is a stackable debuff that deals slow damage for a long period, and it can stack up till 8 times, and the damage increases per stack. The damage is kinda mediocre even on 8 stacks, and it only gets applied on physical damage classes. So if you have any classes that has imbued weapons such as Duskbow or Shadowblade, you can't really, the unhit is very, you can't really proc this very consistently. The damage is really low and has a very niche application with with it being a slow burn. So I don't really recommend getting this one, but if you are to get this one, it drops from the red brutes underneath a shrine. Then we come to the last T8 enchant, which is Ignite. Ignite is another dot, but this one is only applied to when you do fire damage. There are a couple of ways of getting fire damage on your weapon, such as fire coatings or the new elemental weapons doing on-hit damage. Naturally, you can also just run a elementalist and do a meteor rain and it will apply all the dots to all the mods. But personally, I believe there's too many hoops you have to go through to make this work. And even when you do, the damage of this dot is very low. So I don't really recommend getting this one at all. If you are going to do so anyway, you have to get it from the Greater Living Lavas. Now we also get to the T9 Enchants. It is incredibly daunting to level up Enchanting to 40. It requires very high amounts of gold and assistance. I often recommend that you are a guild that, pool all of your enchants and gold together into one guy, and then you use that to reach level 40. Because once you have one guy at 40, he can enchant all your gear. But once you reach level 40 in enchanting, here's what you can look forward to. There are 9 unique T9 enchants. Lifestring, Paragon, Windwalker, Time Warp, Spellburst, Exploit, Doom, Galefrost, and Mist. Lifestring is an enchant that every 10 seconds have a chance to increase your next heal by 20%. In my experience, it's very hard to proc this on your big heals, and the effect is very minor. So I don't recommend using this enchant as a healer or as a caster. I personally believe there are better options. If you were to go out and try it, you can get Lifespring from the Grove Guardians right next to Blackwood. But here's a good one. Paragon is the biggest one from most of the strength-based classes. It gives you a small heal and 120 strength for 10 seconds with a 20-second cooldown. So on average, this gives you 60 extra stats of strength. This is probably the best enchant for most of the melee classes. All of them who use strength, I can not really recommend anything else. So this is a must-have, and I recommend you go out and get it, and it drops from the Dragon Boots south of Fizzlebridge. Likewise, we have Windwalk, which does the same, but it is for dex-based classes. For most of the dex-based classes, I recommend using this enchant for the small heal and 120 extra dexterity. You go get it from the Nameless Monks. Time Warp is a niche enchant that gives you a 5-second window to stack up a debuff on your target, and then it does damage based on the stacks you have accumulated at your target. It can go as far as to 25 stacks. The damage is pretty good, and I recommend this enchant for some of the fast attacking classes. It's easier to stack on classes with on-hit imbues. My best case scenario is the Shadow Blade, because attacking with the on-hit imbue gives you 2 stacks, and then daggers are also attacking faster. So I recommend for using Shadow Blade, you can definitely use this enchant. It's harder to proc on Crusader and Assassin, but it can still be an option, because you can use other tools such as Miasma, or you can use weapon coding, so you can use on-hit procs like the elemental weapons to increase the stacks more consistently. I only recommend using Time Warp if you consistently can get 25 stacks. Without any help, I only believe it's the Shadow Blade that consistently can get 25 stacks without any help. You go get one from the Time Watchers south of Fizzlebridge. Spellburst is pretty much the go-to caster enchant. It provides a crazy casting speed increase that most of the caster classes are able to get. It drops from the Archimentals right next to the Cobalt Tower. Exploit is an interesting enchant, but sadly I don't believe it's very good. It increases the damage on your next attack with 20% extra damage, and it has an 8-second cooldown. It is very hard to control which ability it will amp up, so it is very inconsistent. If you had the option to control what attack you amped up, this damage amplification will still be too low to be any good compared to most of the other enchants. In 90% of all scenarios, Bloodthirst will often do more damage and it will also heal you. But if you were to go try and get it, you have to get it from the werewolves in the Wildlands. The normal werewolves north of Silver Lake does not drop it. The next one is Doom. Doom is also an interesting enchant. You apply the proc to the enemy, and after 10 seconds it does damage to the target. Then it goes on a 5-second cooldown, and then you get another proc. On most normal mobs, the mob is usually dead before the first proc goes off, so it doesn't really have any use case here. It has a better use case against bosses, but the damage just seems too low to be worth spending your enchant slot on this. So I don't really recommend using this for any case, but I would recommend getting the next one, because Gale Frost is an on-hit proc that almost does the same damage as Doom, but it's instant, it does AoE and it slows the target. The damage is good, the slow is good, there really isn't too much to say, it's just an all-around really good enchant. And I can find a use for most of the classes if you really need a slow. So yeah, could definitely recommend this one. It drops from the Tundra Mammoths, so it's quite easy to farm as well. The last one we have is Mist. Mist is an enchant that gives you a chance to dodge an attack once per 12 seconds. It's really bad. It's not worth using on a tank. It's just weird that it gives a chance. Like, I would consider using it if it had a 100% chance to dodge something every 12 seconds. Then I would probably play around, try using it on a tank or something. But just like, yeah, just not guaranteeing that this does anything just seems very bad. So yeah, but if you were to gonna get this one, you have to go find the Spirit Widows. And that was all of them. I will leave them all here on the screen for now, so you can go and see and get an overview of all the enchants available at this moment. I really think there needs to be some balancing of some of the weaker enchants. Like I see the intention of use for them, but because of how enchants you don't have an option to switch on the fly. So every time I want to experience something or figure out what is the best case, I have to go farm another 300 mobs. So for most people, you will just find the best one that's best in most cases, and you'll rock with that button. Because first off, you have to go find an enchant. Secondly, for most people, you will probably have to buy the service of enchanting from someone else. And if you have to do that on every enchant, you don't really do any experimentation. You just get the one that's best for most cases, and for most it's gonna be either Spellburst, Paragon, or the Windwalker. And if not T9, then just go Bloodthirst and you're safe to go. So anyways, thank you for listening to another WXD video, and I hope you check out another one.